The purpose of this legislation is to provide for dignity and non-discrimination in public education and to establish fiscal policy relative to sectarian tenets.
The latest effort by this legislative session to have a say in what is being taught in Idaho schools comes at the language and intent listed in House Bill 375, introduced by, you just heard, Representative Julianne Young from Blackfoot into the House Ways and Means Committee this afternoon. So what are sectarian tenets she referred to? Representative Young spelled them out in the bill that tenets of sectarianism, such as critical race theory, beliefs that exacerbate and inflame divisions on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, national origin, or other criteria in ways contrary to the unity of the nation and the well-being of the state of Idaho and its citizens. Contrary to the unity of the nation, she says. Things like any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin is inherently superior or inferior. That people be treated poorly based on their sex, race, ethnicity, religion, color, or national origin. That people based on those categories are inherently responsible for actions committed in the past by other members of the same category. Well, those beliefs that have kept us all unified since day one, that's what she was referring to. It was just a 5-minute meeting this afternoon, but there was time for Representative Alana Rubel to throw out a question.
Young and Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the page 2, line 3, where it says no educational materials advocating sectarianism shall be used or introduced in any institution of higher education. Does that mean they may not even be discussed for purposes of explaining why they may be wrong? And I guess built into that is how are history teachers, for example, to address such materials that played a critical role in history if they can't be used in any way or even discussed?
You know, I would prefer not to dive too deeply into this since this is a print hearing. However, I will refer you to Article 9, Section 6 of the Idaho Constitution.
This seems like it would put really undue restrictions on what can be discussed and what can be read in classrooms, to the point that I don't honestly know how professors or teachers could operate in a meaningful manner. And so for that reason, for an undue restraint on speech and academic freedom, I'm going to be voting no.
And Representative Rubel did vote no, so did 2 other of her colleagues. But it did pass along party lines 4-3. Representative Jason Monks from Meridian thought it was fair language, that it was simply spelling out schools could not use materials that, quote, advocated for discrimination or hatred. That also kind of takes away, as Representative Rubel pointed out, an element of free speech. What if a high school student wanted to do a paper on the history of hate groups in Idaho, for example? Would they be able to find materials about that subject in their school library? Or what if a University of Idaho student wanted to learn more about the Manifesto Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, to learn how such political ideologies are formed? And isn't this kind of tenet teaching already addressed in Idaho's educational system? You heard Representative Young mention Article 9, Section 6, that is, of the Constitution, which says no sectarian or religious tenets or doctrines shall ever be taught in the public schools, nor shall any distinction or classification of pupils be made on account of race or color. No books, papers, tracts, or documents of a political, sectarian, or denominational character shall be used or introduced in any schools established under the provisions of this article, or that school or teacher basically won't get paid. So it seems that whole part is covered, right, with Idaho's Constitution, other than sliding in the term that's been trotted out a lot lately, critical race theory, which, once again, we have asked and have yet to see any evidence of being taught in Idaho schools. But that hasn't seemed to stop legislators from, well, repeating it. So